They say paranoia comes with the job. I never used to believe that until tonight. I just stepped out of the International Symposium on Applied AI in Zurich Hall, still buzzing from the ovation. My presentation on adaptive neural surveillance had been the final talk. Top-tier minds, tight security, big tech interest, exactly the kind of environment that made you think you were untouchable. Then my phone vibrated. No caller ID. Just a message. They're in your home. Your family isn't safe. I stared at it for maybe half a second before my body moved on instinct. Jacket on. Bag clutched. I pushed through the crowd, ignoring handshakes and congratulations. My throat went dry. I dialed Samantha. Voicemail. I tried Eli's number. Then Kaya's. Nothing. My Tesla roared out of the parking garage in seconds. It was late, but I didn't care. I blew through lights, barely registering horns and curses. Boulder was 45 minutes from downtown Denver. I made it in 29. The last stretch up the winding drive to our smart estate perched near Flagstaff Mountain nearly gave me a heart attack. Samantha's car was there, her white Tesla parked neatly in her usual spot. But what made my skin crawl was the old, mud-splashed Jeep sitting behind it. My brother's Jeep. Aaron wasn't supposed to be here. He was in Mexico. Some university-funded sabbatical. Anthropology or bioethics, I forgot which. I didn't turn off the engine. I ran up the front steps. The smart lock wouldn't respond. I keyed in the override manually, heart jackhammering. Silence. Not even the AI home assistant greeted me. Kaya? Eli? No answer. The place was too quiet. That bone-deep, dead quiet that feels staged. I walked toward the solarium. The air smelled faintly metallic, ozone and sweat. That's when I saw them. My son, Eli, slumped in the wicker chair, wrists bound behind him. Kaya was next to him, her legs shaking under her blue pajama pants, duct tape across her mouth. Her eyes snapped to me, wide and desperate. Dad! Eli tried to shout, but a firm hand clamped down on his shoulder. Miles? I said before I even fully registered it. Dr. Miles Keating stepped from behind the ficus tree. Hair slicked back, lab coat still on. In his right hand, a stun baton buzzed to life, casting a bluish glow on his face. You made good time, he said with a smile, like this was some goddamn faculty lounge meeting. What the hell are you doing? He stepped closer to my kids. Eli flinched. Miles's expression barely twitched. Keeping them safe, he said. From you. From the lies. From everything that's about to collapse. My eyes darted around. No Samantha. No Aaron. Just my kids tied up and the man I trusted more than anyone in the world standing over them like some kind of twisted guardian angel. And the worst part? That little part of me that always ran numbers, risk matrices, probability algorithms, it already knew. This wasn't a spontaneous breakdown. This had been planned. And it had just begun. Julian, don't be stupid, Miles said, keeping the stun baton low but humming. I haven't hurt them. Not yet. I raised my hands, slow and deliberate. What do you want, Miles? He tilted his head like he hadn't expected the question to come so quickly. Like I should already know. Then he gave a little snort and shook his head. You know what the funny thing is, he said. I was going to wait until the contract was finalized. I figured, hey, maybe you'd grow a conscience before cashing in. But then I thought no. That's not you anymore. I took a cautious step forward. You're talking about the DARPA deal. No, Julian. I'm talking about 10 years of my work being turned into your legacy. Behind him, Kaya let out a muffled sob. You're scaring them, I said through gritted teeth. He barely glanced at them. They'll understand one day. The truth always catches up. A noise to the right, footsteps. I turned, bracing for another stranger, but it was Samantha. She stepped into the solarium like she was arriving late to dinner. Eyes red, holding a manila folder tight against her chest. My stomach twisted. Sam. She didn't answer right away. Just looked at me with this exhausted kind of sadness I hadn't seen before. She walked over to the coffee table, set the folder down, and pushed it toward me. What is that? I asked, though I already knew it wasn't good. I tried to stop this from getting to this point, she whispered. I really did. I opened the folder. Photos. Years of them. Hotel rooms. Airport lounges. A blurry shot of Miles kissing her cheek on a balcony in Austin. A selfie, both of them half-dressed, smiling. Then lab reports. Paternity tests. Kaya, 99.9% match with Miles. I staggered back like I'd been punched. Eli turned his head to me. Dad? I stared at the paper like it would rewrite itself. Miles crouched beside him, whispering, You don't have to call him that anymore, kid. You've got me now. I saw red. I lunged. Julian, no. Samantha yelled, stepping in between us. Miles didn't even flinch. Just raised the baton and pointed it straight at my chest. "One more step and I drop you," he said. My hands clenched into fists. "You were my friend," I said, shaking. "You held Kaya as a baby in our damn hospital room. You toasted our wedding." He shrugged. "And I stayed close. That was the plan." Samantha turned to me, crying now. "It wasn't supposed to go like this. I didn't know he'd take it this far. He said it was just leverage. For the negotiations. For the DARPA deal. He said he wanted his name on the patent again." "You think this is about the money?" Miles snapped. "I spent a decade building that architecture with you. You promised me equity. Then you let the lawyers bury me in consultant status. You think I wouldn't notice?" "None of this justifies," I started. "It's not just that," he interrupted. "You had the wife. The house. The spotlight. My child. You got everything." A sudden metallic clink interrupted him. From the hallway, a faint beep echoed through the air. Miles turned, eyes narrowing. "What was that?" Aaron stepped into view, hands up. "Silent alarm," he said calmly. "I triggered it when I got here. Local law enforcement's about 5 minutes out. You should probably wrap up this monologue." Miles cursed under his breath. Samantha backed away from him like she'd just noticed the monster she'd helped build. The baton dropped an inch. And for the first time that night I could breathe. But the damage, hell, the betrayal, was already done. Miles was still shouting when they dragged him out. It took 6 armed deputies and a tactical medic to remove him safely. He was cuffed, screaming about patents and betrayal, spit flying as he kicked at the linoleum like a caged animal. Samantha just stood frozen by the solarium doors, arms crossed over her chest, mascara streaked, like she couldn't quite believe what had happened either. Aaron followed the deputies out in silence. No cuffs for him, he wasn't under arrest. But I didn't thank him. Not yet. I didn't say anything. Didn't say anything as I held Eli tighter than I ever had before. Didn't speak while the EMT checked him over or when I pulled Kaya's tape off and watched her flinch like I was a stranger. Didn't speak when I looked at Samantha. Not until the next morning. By noon, we were out. I left everything behind at the Boulder estate except what mattered. A duffel bag. Eli. That was it. The house could burn for all I cared. I took him to the high-rise in downtown Denver I'd bought years ago but never actually moved into. It was cold and sterile and quiet, exactly what I needed. I didn't answer Samantha's calls. Not one of the dozen voicemails. Not when she sent texts asking if Kaya was okay. Not when she started using full paragraphs instead of just one-line apologies. I talked to my lawyer instead. "You want blood?" she said over speakerphone, skimming the file I sent. "I want what's mine," I replied. "Then we'll start with asset tracing, emergency restraining orders, full divorce proceedings, and a motion to freeze all joint accounts. You'll also need to contest guardianship for Kaya if that's still relevant." I hesitated. "Just a second." "No," I said. "Just Eli." She didn't question it. By that evening, she had filed everything. Miles was already sitting in a federal detention facility, and Samantha had been brought in for questioning, though not charged. Yet, Eli barely spoke the first few days. He stayed holed up in the guest room that overlooked Union Station, gaming headset on, barely touching the takeout I kept ordering. Every time I asked how he was doing, he just nodded, eyes focused on the screen like it could block out everything he'd seen. What he'd heard. I knew that feeling too well. But he was mine. He was my son. So I let him have the silence. Let him retreat. But I stayed close. Always within reach. When Samantha tried to visit, just once, I had building security escort her right back to the street. The guard handed me her note. I didn't read it. I burned it in the sink. The world outside kept spinning, media, faculty questions, DARPA emails, but I shut it all out. All that mattered now was the next step. The next calculation. The next piece of the empire I was going to take back. Not for Samantha. Not for Kaya. For Eli. For me. For the part of me that finally understood, you don't defend your legacy. You rebuild it, one scorched bridge at a time. I converted the guest bedroom into a control room within a week. 2 wide monitors, fiber uplink, air-gapped external drives, and a full-spectrum VPN routed through an offshore relay I'd set up during the early DARPA proposals. I wasn't building a lab, I was building a war room. And the target was everything I'd let rot behind the curtain of trust. I started with our internal systems at the university, secure access logs, IP addresses, shared cloud storage from the early AI prototypes. Miles had left fingerprints everywhere. Sloppy ones. I traced unauthorized file transfers back 3 years. Entire modules of our codebase had been siphoned to a private server registered under a shell company, Vanguard Frontiers, registered in Delaware. Samantha's name wasn't on anything, but the trail didn't stop there. Emails between her and Miles, dozens of them, hidden under alias accounts. One of them stood out. "We're almost there. Once Redstone confirms, we pull the trigger." Redstone. It wasn't a person. It was a location. Redstone Research Park. A privately owned facility we'd both consulted for years ago. I kept digging. Another transfer. This time from Samantha's old university email to a private Dropbox labeled Reference Files V. I ran the metadata on the documents. Several originated from my own devices. Confidential summaries. Design white papers. Contracts I'd written myself. She'd stolen them and shared them with who I didn't know yet. That night, a new text buzzed in. "Unknown number. Nice work so far. You're not alone in this. Keep going. A witness." I stared at the message, my mind racing. I hadn't told anyone what I was doing. Not my lawyer. Not Aaron. Not even Eli. Who the hell was this? I tried calling back. No ring. Straight to static. Burner. I was being watched. But by whom and why? A few days later, I got a call from Eli's school. "Mr. Thorne, we need to speak with you. Your son's been suspended." My grip tightened around the phone. For what? There was an altercation in the locker room. He attacked another student. I was silent. He said the boy made fun of his mother, called her a traitor. Eli broke his nose. He sat on the leather couch in the apartment, arms folded tight, jaw set. "You didn't have to come get me," he mumbled. "I could have taken the train." "That's not the point." I sat across from him. The same kid who used to fall asleep on my chest watching Star Trek was now sitting like a coiled spring. I didn't ask why he did it. I already knew. "You can't just hit people," I said quietly. His eyes stayed down. "I didn't plan to. You broke his nose. He deserved it." I leaned back, watching him carefully. "You don't get to decide that, Eli." "You do," he muttered. "You always do." That stung. He looked up at me, and something in his eyes made my chest tighten. Not fear. Not guilt. Resolve. Like he was trying to become me. "I'm not your model," I said. "You don't have to become this." He didn't answer. Just got up and walked to his room, shutting the door behind him. Later that night, I reviewed surveillance footage from the Boulder estate before the intrusion. I caught one clip from 2 weeks earlier. Samantha in the study, copying files from my workstation. She looked straight at the camera at one point and smiled. A second message came in. "Redstone. Lab 6B. Dig deeper." A witness. I stared at the screen for a long time. The lines were being drawn. Alliances I didn't understand. Enemies I hadn't yet named. And somewhere in the middle, my son, mirroring me in ways I hadn't meant to teach. I wasn't just tracking betrayal anymore. I was raising it. I picked a restaurant Samantha couldn't resist. Modern fusion, minimalist decor, nestled in an old brick warehouse near Larimer Square. The kind of place she used to gush about in design magazines. I reserved the chef's tasting room. Private, high-ceilinged, lined with vintage whiskey bottles. She walked in 15 minutes late, wearing a long cream coat and sunglasses, like someone hoping to be mistaken for anyone else. She didn't take them off until the waiter left. "You said it was important," she said quietly, finally meeting my eyes. "So here I am." I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her, and for a moment, neither of us said anything. Then I pushed the wine menu aside and folded my hands on the table. "Do you still talk to him?" Her jaw tightened. "He's in federal custody, Julian." That wasn't my question. She exhaled and leaned back. "No, I haven't spoken to Miles since the arrest." I studied her face. She looked tired. No makeup. Eyes sunken. Like someone whose life was unraveling quietly behind a polished door. "I need you to help me," I said. She blinked. "What?" "There's a backup server in his mountain lab. You know the one. Hidden behind the server wall in the east wing. Access through the floor panel in the back of the optics room." Her expression faltered for a split second. She knew exactly what I was talking about. And you want me to, what, walk in and grab it? I want you to use his access token and download the files to a portable drive. That's it. Julian, you're insane. That place is locked down. And if someone's watching, they are watching. I cut in. But not you. They're watching me. She stared at me like I was unraveling. Maybe I was. Why are you asking me now? She asked. After everything? Because I think you finally hate him more than you hate me. She laughed once, dry and bitter. You really think I hate you? I think you betrayed me, I said flatly. I think you picked the wrong man and didn't realize how wrong until the gun was in his hand and our daughter was tied up. She looked down, fingers tightening on her lap. I loved him, she said. But it was never about love. Not really. It was about leverage. He had things on me. Threats. Pictures. Emails. He manipulated you. She nodded slowly. Yes. And I let him. We were quiet for a long moment. Then I reached into my coat and slid a small envelope across the table. Inside, a new phone. Burner. Secure. When you get the files, text the number on that SIM. Leave the drive in a Dropbox on Colfax and Blake. I'll take care of the rest. She didn't touch it right away. I'm not doing this for you, she said. I know. The food came. Neither of us touched it. Later that night, I stood in the war room watching the signal on the phone go live. A ping. A second. Then a message. It's done. The files are in the box. He never knew. I closed the phone and locked it in a lead case. A second text buzzed on my personal line, different number. Check the red terminal in Lab 6B. Hidden directory, /Vexler1. A witness. That name again. Vexler. I sat there for a long time staring at the screen. Samantha had done it. She'd turned on Miles. Maybe not for me. Maybe not for redemption. But the pieces were moving. And whoever a witness was, they were moving them faster than I was. Aaron showed up without texting first. Typical. It was just after 11 and I was reviewing encrypted file fragments from the server Samantha pulled. I buzzed him up without a word. He walked into the penthouse holding a USB drive like it was radioactive. I wasn't going to bring this, he said, dropping it on the marble counter. But then I figured maybe it's time I stop pretending I'm not neck deep in this too. I didn't move to touch it. What is it? Offshore banking transfers, he said. From Miles to someone named Conrad Vexler. Shell corporations. British Virgin Islands. Wire patterns like clockwork, thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands at a time. Over 6 years. I stared at him. Where'd you get this? An old laptop of his. Miles forgot to wipe the internal drive. I mirrored it when I stayed at the cabin 2 months ago. Before I knew what he was really doing. I finally picked up the drive. Why now? He looked away. Because Miles offered me money. What kind of money? Enough to testify against you in a custody hearing. He said you were unstable. Obsessed. That the lab accident 3 years ago was your fault. That you'd lose Eli in court. I clenched my jaw. And you considered it. For 10 minutes, he admitted. Then I triggered the silent alarm. I didn't thank him. You ever hear of Vexler before this? Aaron shook his head. No. But he's not just a financier. Some of the transfer memos reference containment, legacy mitigation, and Riverside Protocol. Whatever the hell that means. I pulled out my laptop and decrypted the USB on an isolated machine. The documents were real. Transactional logs, internal memos, even one scanned letter signed CV in heavy, shaky ink. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Lab 6B. Redstone Research Park. Midnight. Come alone. A witness. I turned the phone toward Aaron. Someone's been feeding me information. Knows things they shouldn't. Now they want to meet. Aaron squinted at the screen. You think it's Vexler? No, I said. Vexler doesn't hide in shadows. He pays people to hide in them. Then who? I stood and grabbed my coat. I intend to find out. By 11:30, I was parked 2 blocks from Redstone, watching the perimeter through thermal. 2 guards. Minimal patrols. Most of the research park had been mothballed for years, just enough presence to keep squatters out. At 11:58, I slipped through the side gate and followed the old fire lane around the building to Lab 6B. A red LED glowed faintly by the back door. The lock disengaged with a soft click when I entered the code I hadn't used in nearly a decade. Inside, the place was a ghost. Dust-covered lab tables, broken monitors, crates with the DARPA logo half-faded. Then I saw it. A terminal lit in the back corner. Already powered on. On the screen, one line of text. Hello, Julian. We've been waiting. Aaron was right. This wasn't just sabotage. This was orchestration. And whoever Conrad Wexler was, he'd been pulling strings for a very, very long time. 2 weeks after the standoff, I sat alone in a sterile office, the kind where they pipe in jazz piano to make you forget you're reading decades-old paperwork about births, bloodlines, and betrayal. Dr. Ingrid Hall was polite, methodical, and clearly uncomfortable that someone like me had shown up without an appointment, holding a court order for archived obstetrics records from 16 years ago. She slid a yellowed folder across the desk. "I verified it twice," she said. "These are the original records. Paternity screenings weren't routine then, but your name was recorded as the father at birth. And this," she tapped a note in the margin, "was added after a private test 3 months later. Requested by Samantha Thorne." I took the page. Julian Thorne, 99.92% match. My hands didn't shake. They just slowed. Kaya was mine. Had always been. Miles had lied. Samantha had let it stand. Back at the penthouse, the walls felt too quiet again. Eli was at his tutoring session. He hated the idea but hadn't pushed back. I didn't blame him. After the last few months, silence was our truce. I texted Samantha. "Me? I want to see her. Kaya. 1 hour. Neutral place." She replied within minutes. "Samantha. Grant Park. 3 o'clock. We'll be there." The moment I saw Kaya walking up the tree-lined path, my chest went tight. She looked older somehow. Not in the way kids age, but in the way people harden when they're forced to grow up too fast. She didn't run. Didn't smile. She just stopped a few feet away. "You wanted to see me," she said, voice steady. I nodded. "Yeah, I did." Samantha stood off to the side, watching quietly, arms crossed. There were 100 things I could have said. Apologies. Explanations. Please. Instead, I held out the folder. Kaya opened it slowly, reading in silence. She blinked once. Then again. "You're sure?" I nodded. "I had it confirmed yesterday." Her face twisted for a moment, confused, hurt, maybe even angry, but not at me. Why did she let him say that? "Let Miles tell me." "She believed him," I said. Or maybe she wanted to believe him because it gave her a way out. Kaya's lips trembled. "I asked her once," she said quietly. "A long time ago. She just said it was complicated. I didn't know what to say to that. So I said the only thing that mattered. You're mine, Kaya. You always have been. And if you still want that to mean something." She dropped the folder and lunged forward, throwing her arms around my waist. I caught her before either of us could fall. "I didn't want to believe it," she whispered, "but I couldn't stop thinking about it. I still remembered you reading to me when I had the flu. How you carried me in the middle of the night because I was too tired to walk. He never did any of that." "I didn't need a test to know," I said, resting my chin on her hair. "But I got one anyway." That night, I filed the final pieces with my lawyer. The divorce was finalized. Aaron's academic funding was cut. Permanently. No more grants. No more support. Miles's career was ruined. The data breach went public, media, government boards, the whole fallout. He'd never lecture again. And Samantha? She didn't ask for custody. Didn't fight when I claimed full guardianship of both Eli and Kaya. The last message I received was from Wexler's office. A brief invitation. He was dying. He wanted closure. I deleted it without reading further. Some people didn't deserve closure. Later that week, Kaya sat beside me on the couch, knees tucked under her as she played with a bracelet Eli had made her when they were kids. She looked over and asked, "Do you still think of me as your daughter?" I turned toward her, no hesitation in my voice. "Always." She smiled. And just like that, the silence in our home finally meant peace, not distance.